Capital Canada Limited approval. Standard terms, conditions, and other restrictions apply. Down payment may be required.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Trev Talks with your host, Trevor Boland.
Good morning. Welcome to this week's edition of Trev Talks. It is a beautiful Friday out. We're going into a long weekend. Just a little bit of a reminder before we get going on the show this morning. There's some phenomenal events happening for Remembrance Day on Sunday. There's the parade and then the after party, if you will, that's happening at the Legion. So ensure that get out, get the kids out. It's going to be a beautiful day, which is nice because we've done that walk when it's not so nice. But take part in that, and we're getting right into Trev Talks. We're joined by two very special guests today. We've got Nelson Stowe, who is the president of the Chamber of Commerce right here in Fort St. John, and of course Lilia Hansen, who one of her hats is also the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. Welcome, Trevor. Thank you.
So, you know what, I wanted to have you on here, and I got to give credit. I mean, Nelson, we've known each other for a long time, and we had served actually with Lilia back-to-back as president for the Sunrise Rotary Club in Fort St. John. But it wasn't really until Lilia started to email me and fill me in, and you know, I'll show you my inbox, and it's mostly Lilia now, and but about what the Chamber does. And you know, I was thinking about this a couple weeks ago, and I don't think a lot of people know what the Chamber does, like how powerful the Chamber is in the city of Fort St. John for businesses, for people, for the community. So give us a little, just kind of a little sense of what the Chamber does in the city of Fort St. John. What is your role, each of you, as part of the Chamber?
Okay, well, I'll take that for start, and I'll hand it to Lilia then afterwards. So the Chamber of Commerce. So Chamber of Commerce, basically, our objective and goal is to be the voice of business. Now, that can encompass a lot of things, but the core responsibility of the Chamber is to give businesses an organization, association to join to help them advocate for their businesses and their interests. So we have a voice with regards to local municipal governments. We express the interests of business whenever there's issues affecting them. We also have the BC Chamber of Commerce, which we're a member of, and they advocate on a provincial level. So it could be tax-related issues, regulations, things of that nature. Anything a business has challenges with that they need the assistance of a larger group, the Chamber of Commerce is the group that they can join and come and express their concerns. So our goal is to advocate, be the voice of business in our community.
Wow, nice. And now your second term as president?
It's my second year as president, yes.
Okay, yep. But you've been involved for?
I've been on the board for 5 years.
Okay, so
yep.
Quite a long time.
Yep.
Lilia, you are the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce, so
Correct.
You are the inner workings for making these guys look good, right? Making your board look good. So you've been doing this for 5 years.
Going on 5 years.
Okay, tell us a little bit about the role that you play inside of the Chamber and what it does in the city.
Well, just to expand on what Nelson has already covered, I think one of our something I'm really passionate about, and what I think the Chamber does great, it's building those bridges, it's the networking, it's providing opportunities for the smaller businesses to meet the prime contractors. We've had some really successful B2B events. We had one recently with TransCanada Pipelines. We had 3 of their prime contractors. We had about 92 smaller businesses come to this meeting, face-to-face meetings. It's nothing like having that contact, and a lot of times there's some businesses that don't realize that their products and services is exactly what these companies are looking for. So on the Coastal GasLink project, I had TransCanada reach out to me again. We sat down, they showed me their list of businesses. This is who we have that has given expression of interest on working on this project. I'm going, we can improve on this. So they gave me permission, they expanded the date for accepting applications. We sent it out. You know, it doesn't matter if you sell coffee, toilet paper, photocopiers. These companies need all those products and services, and sometimes the smaller mom and pop shops, they just need that little bit of a nudge to go, yeah, they're looking for you, so make sure you get part of it, get in on it.
Wow, that's actually huge. So putting big business with little business, pairing up out-of-town business with in-town business is kind of that cycle that you guys are running right now, I imagine, with the amount of projects that are going on.
And what I really appreciate are the larger companies, they're seeing that someone is checking, hey, who are you doing business with? Can I see your list? And they're really good about it. We'll sit down for a cup of coffee or over lunch, and they're really good about keeping track of who they're working with, how much money they're spending local, whether it's widgets or coffee or toilet paper. And that way, when I get asked, hey, what is this project, what kind of an impact is it having locally for us, I can say, oh, I have some information, some stats that I can share with them.
That's actually phenomenal. You know what? We hear it all the time in Fort St. John, and it's the out-of-town presence. And I was born and raised here, and I remember as a kid in our neighborhood, every red half-ton GMC or three-quarter-ton GMC, because that was the truck that they were using back in the day for the rigs, had Alberta plates on it, and and it was majority of, and people didn't understand that they were still living here. They owned that home. Their kids went to the same school as we did, and it wasn't necessarily that they were from out of town. And I think we're going to see it again very soon, where there's going to be an influx of people moving to Fort St. John, coming from southern BC or coming from Alberta, in order to get in on some of these mega projects that we've got going on, that you guys are working on to put those pieces together. So I think that's huge, and I think people need to realize that, because we hear it a lot, and some of the complaints we've heard in the last few months, it's going to be nobody local, and Site C is a prime example. We still see that on Facebook now, is too bad there wasn't any local people there, and it's like there's a ton of local people there.
Are.
Right, a ton of local people, and one of the reports just said there's 3,700 employees in what was it, August or September or something, 3,700 employees on Site C, and a large majority of those, based on our population, are local people in Fort St. John. So have you done a similar thing with Site C and projects like that, where you kind of pair up the two businesses, as you have mentioned the other ones?
We've been really fortunate working with the Site C project. We held an event, this was a couple of years back, and we did expand it. I do believe, I'm a true firm believer, what's good for my neighbors is good for me. If my neighbor, whether they're up the highway or across the river, if they're working, it's going to help us. If someone in Tumbler Ridge is working, they're going to come to Fort St. John, and maybe they're going to buy a pickup truck from one of our local dealerships. So it's getting that information out. It's, definitely we want local, we want regional, we want provincial, and we expand it from there. Site C, they do have a focus as well, trying to make sure that they're hiring local. And what I like is online, on their website, they do post their stats. So it's clear.
In fairness to Site C, at the time that Site C, the bids and process was going through to select the bidders, the Northeast marketplace, we were boom.
Yeah,
you couldn't find anybody to do anything.
Agreed.
So
No room at the inn.
advocacy for Peace River Hydro Partners and these companies to hire local was really not that high, because there wasn't anyone local to hire. In fairness to Site C and the contractors, we hit the down curve just as that project was happening. The pressure came on them to hire local, and they did respond. In fairness, I think they did a fairly good job in coming back to a local market, local focus on hiring.
I agree.
So,
I agree with you 100%. It's funny because I can remember during the joint review panel days, Fort St. John was hot, right? Like the market was hot. There was nobody to fill jobs, and we stood there at that point in time and said, like, have you guys thought about putting a camp in? How can we try to do this with the market? And then all of a sudden there's that just and it literally hit that ridge, just like you said, Nelson. And all of a sudden we get, whoa, wait a minute, right? We're now got a 32% vacancy. We've now got a 7% unemployment rate. But it's funny because we had Wanda on the show last show or the show before. Yeah, we had Wanda from Action on, and again talking about the market change that is also affected out there, because they're still looking to bring upwards of about 500 workers in, and we're now at about a 10% vacancy, or I think she figured 8 to 10% vacancy. Was it 8? Yeah. So I mean, the game has changed again, and I think that's what's important. So for you guys going forward now with Coastal Link and LNG and all these other projects, is being able to put that together. We see how well it worked. We see how well it worked in two very different markets as well.
And I think what's important to also point out, people go, well, how does LNG Canada, how's that project affect us here? That's far away. Well, no, it's not. Your neighbor next door or across the road, if they work for Solaris Murphy, if they work for Macro Industries, they're laying pipe. They're our neighbors here. So it does affect, it does have a positive financial impact for people in our town.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one of the major questions. And I still don't think people get it, right? I still don't think people understand that, for every dollar that they spend to build the facility, they're going to spend $3.80, I think was the number, or $3.86 locally in the Northeast in order to drill for that product. So is the Chamber taking this step, like years ago, so in the 70s and the 80s, way before David was ever born, maybe even his mom, but you know, the Halliburtons were here and the Baltic Drillings and Brinkerhoff was here. And I mean, for some of our listeners that are listening, and I name these off, and it's going to bring back a lot of memories. We need those guys back. So, you know, does the chamber play a role and say Iron Hand or say Precision or somebody's going to get a majority of these well sites are going to be drilled? Does the chamber play a role in getting that focus back locally as well? You know, I mean, especially for some of these drilling companies? I think more so in
partnership with the City of Fort St. John. We have a new economic development officer, and that's Jennifer Decker. And so when we get inquiries, you know, we'll provide them the stats, information that they need to know. We'll forward it on to Jennifer. The city is really good about working hand in hand. And it's trying to say, Fort St. John, we're ready to work with you, and trying to do some of the groundwork because we know our community the best. And we can say, well, here's some land, some properties you're interested in, here's some zoning, this is what's going to fit and work with what you need. Definitely, but it's also a good opportunity for us when we do have people that come up to work, if it's short term, it's our chance to help promote our community. Fort St. John is awesome. We are a winter city. It's about embracing our community, loving what we have. And a lot of times people come up here and go, you know, wow, this is a really friendly town. We like what you have. And it's helping to connect people with other like-minded individuals that have the same interests. And people stay. They come with a 1 or 2 year plan. They're still here 10, 15 years later.
With regards to encouraging these companies to hire locals, so that's a tough challenge. As you know, we're in a free market system. So oil and gas industry, there's a lot of capacity in Alberta. And we know that the stress and pressure from Alberta companies coming into this marketplace and bidding on the local businesses. We want to promote those local businesses, no question. I think so. One thing we've done is we work with Resource Coalition to ensure that the taxation is tax field is level. Make sure that the PST where it's applied to these contracts needs to be, and these companies, so it levels the playing field for local bidders. That's one aspect. The other aspect, though, that I think is becoming a bigger challenge for us is this. And the world is going this way. There's a lot of fly-in, fly-out workers. Yeah. Now, camps have always been
they've always
disputed.
Been here.
They've always been disputed, but they're necessary.
They are.
It helps in the boom-bust scenario. Yeah. So if you got a huge project, 1,000 workers required for 12 months, you don't want our real estate market to be heavily affected by that. Yeah. It's not good for anyone. No. So camps make sense. But what we're finding now, and this is probably the next challenge we have, is the fly-in, fly-out worker was temporary solution before, but now it's become a permanent solution for a lot of the proponents in the oil and gas industry. We need to work on that. Yeah. I would say my guesstimate is, and this is without data in front of me, I'd say there's hundreds of workers in this area who have great paying jobs, permanent positions. They should have a home in Fort St. John. Agreed. They should be paying taxes in Fort St. John. Right. But the model today, worldwide, is fly them in, fly them out from where they live. So can we stop it? No. But what we can do, and this is where the Chamber is not just business, the Chamber has a lot of affiliations, a lot of work with nonprofits. We're on the board positions, we're on advisory councils, we're invited to all the meetings for all the proponents in the community that are nonprofits, so that we can work with them to find out what they need so that we can have a nicer, better community, safer, cleaner, healthier community, so that we can attract employees to come and work and stay here. So we need to work on that, but we also need to work with the proponents of the oil and gas industry to help them to swing that pendulum back a bit, and let's get employees staying and working here in Fort St. John.
Wow, that's
And sometimes huge. It's just making that ask, don't you find? They're like, oh, well, if you just told us this would be a good idea, we'll look into it. So sometimes it's being able to have that dialogue and just to say, this is why this would work best for our community, and this is how it'll help your business. And I think it helps. You have to lay that out for them, and they'll take it back to the boardroom.
Wow, you guys, I'm impressed. That's far more, you know, and I mean, I've seen what the Chamber's done, and I mean, I've known both of you for so long, and seen you guys give so much on other committees, and well, imagining you do on this one. But I didn't even have a realization of how big it is that you guys are operating in, right? That sphere that you're in.
Because you're not reading my emails,
I read some of them. But I mean, you know, when a guy's logging 65 to 70 a day, it's just kind of a pick.
Part being that popular, Trevor.
It's kind of a pick and choose. We're now you've brought Lilia. You've of course brought us a package of different projects that the Chamber's working on right now. You touched a little bit on the Winter Cities, which is the 2017 to 2018 winter season. So you guys are heavily involved in that as far as a partnership, I'm assuming, would go, right, with the Winter Cities?
Yeah,
Well-
we've been invited to their committee meetings.
Yeah.
So we've been active with Urban Systems, City, Fort St. John, going through the Winter City strategy.
Yeah.
Downtown revitalization
Downtown
plan.
revitalization strategy.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things about the Chamber too, is that we've been very fortunate that we've been invited to the table to a lot of these different things, so we can give input and get knowledge back, so we can share with our members.
Nice.
Yeah, so when chamber members, you see a board member out, stop and talk to them. Let us know what is impacting your business, what are your successes, what are your concerns, and those are things we'll take forward.
I like that. Now, in speaking of that, now I know you guys have your the junior, is it the junior chamber?
It's called Synergy.
Synergy, right.
So
sorry.
we no longer have an age restriction, as some of us are getting a few more gray hairs.
I think that's when I stopped attending, was when I bumped over
That's
that.
me too. I was never allowed there. I was too old.
And so for Synergy, it's more of a focus group. So we're a business after 5. It's more straight networking. Come, say, hi, I'm Bob, I'm a painter. Here's my card. What do you do? Synergy, it's more focused. It has an agenda. We bring in speakers. It's usually from 7 to 9 p.m. and it's definitely does draw in a different crowd for that. And one of the great things about Synergy, it develops opportunities to find mentors or other business people that can assist you in what you're doing. So it's not always about plain straight networking. It's about building those connections and who can help you build your business. So Synergy, there is no longer an age cap
So
on
everyone's welcome, everyone's
it.
open.
Entrepreneurs, they come at all ages, and some people start their businesses later in life. So.
Yeah. And what does that have? That's weekly? That's monthly?
Usually quarterly.
Quarterly?
We have 2 months to 3 months. We're putting them off.
Okay.
They're advertised heavily on social media.
Nice.
Lilia and the Chamber sends out a lot of invites on it. And I think I got to get this right. Collaboration through people, I believe, is the motto of the Synergy.
People helping people.
You got it.
I love that. Business helping business. It's beautiful. Good. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. Coming up next, we're going to dive a little bit into what else is happening as far as conversation with Progress Energy, what's happening with the Chamber, what's happening with Lilia. I think Nelson and Lilia are going to share a little bit more with us, something that's late breaking news, if you will. Not CNN style, it's Moose FM style. So join us after this short commercial break.
Parents, you can handle anything. 6 a.m. hockey practice? Whatevs. Meltdowns at Montessori? Do you look new? But a vehicle you can't rely on? No bueno. That's why you need The Works. A full tire changeover, oil and filter change, up to 83-point inspection, one-on-one consultation, and a detailed vehicle report card. Driving to school in Snowmageddon? Bring it. With The Works, there's nothing you can't handle. Book your appointment for The Works for only $79.99. See store for details. Ford Service. Where to next?
Get your requests on now for the Wendy's Noon Hour Takeover. Now serving 2 locations in Fort St. John and Dawson Creek. Text us at 250-800-2360.
Wendy's fresh beef patty, applewood smoked bacon, portobello mushrooms, and cheddar cheese sauce on a toasted bun. It's the bacon portobello mushroom melt, and it's only at Wendy's.
The Noon Hour Takeover, brought to you by Wendy's.
Since 1957, the best comedians and music has been seen and heard at the Lido. In continuing with that tradition, we are proud to present Ryan Belleville, a Canadian comic that got his big break by being the youngest comic in Canada to have his own Comedy Now episode. Since then, he's gone on to star in movies like Almost Heroes and Going the Distance. He is also going to be bringing us a night of laughter with that Canadian edge, Friday, November 16th. Make sure you get your tickets to this show and any of our other great performances by heading out to the website at thelido.ca or call us at 250-785-3011.
At Complete Safety Services, they specialize in, you guessed it, safety. They provide field safety advisors and certified medics with fully equipped MTCs and trucks that are maintained to the highest standards. They can prepare companies for their COR certification, write safety programs, manage ISN and ComplyWorks. Not only that, but Complete Safety Services now offers traffic control, hotshotting, and pilot car services. Complete Safety Services, striving to ensure a safe and healthy working environment on 100 Street in Fort St. John and online at completesafety.ca.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at energeticcity.ca. This is Trev Talks with Trevor Bolin.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us on the air now, we are chatting heavily with Lilia Hansen and Nelson Stowe from the Chamber. Nelson, of course, is the president. Lilia is executive director. We've been talking about what and why and where and the 5 W's of the Chamber here in Fort St. John. We left just before the commercial break, but we were talking a little bit about off air a little bit. Before we jump right into this, one thing we were going to talk about was PR. The referendum that's on everybody's mind. Of course, we had MLA Davies on last week. Very, very passionate show. You know what Danny gets like when he gets, even David just sat back in his chair and he's like, wow, right? So the Chamber has an official stance, I imagine, both as the Fort St. John Chamber and as the British Columbia Chamber. What is your guys' stand on that?
So the BC Chamber of Commerce has solicited input from the chambers, and I think the consensus is with the chambers is this: we don't want to tell people what they should have as an electoral system. That's not our job. But I think our job is to make sure that businesses need certainty, and stability of government is important to all certainty, in planning. So one of the things that the one thing this BC Chamber of Commerce and our Chamber of Commerce feels is the following, and that is that the process in which we're going about this seems to be flawed. It's not really bringing in all the input of the community, of the province. It was done correctly twice before. Let's do it again correctly. Citizens Coalition, they did a lot of work.
Huge.
They came back with a yes/no on 2 options, and that seemed to be the right way to do it. So I think that BC Chamber and our chamber feel it's not a question of whether Prop Rep is right or wrong. It's a matter of the process is skewed to one result. And that is our concern.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's basically what we said.
This isn't something that should be rushed in at all. I mean, let's have a discussion about it, do it right. This is an impact change to our voting process.
But at the end of the day, and there was something that Dan shared with us last week, was that the supply agreement between Horgan and Weaver, Horgan has no choice but to do it the way he's done it, because he's signed a, what did we say? We signed a deal with the devil, right, as far as Weaver goes.
Well, let's be honest. LNG would not happen if it wasn't for this agreement.
Agreed.
I mean, at the end of the day, the Green Party, the coalition, was formed, and at the end of the day, the Green Party wants Prop Rep, and this is basically their agreement.
Yeah.
So and the
And
Green
we have to live
and
with
the
it.
Green Party is 100% against LNG.
Yeah.
So the reason why we still have a government in power is because of this agreement that Prop Rep referendum will happen.
And that's an interesting point, because it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if PR does not go through. Because
Right.
if PR does not go through, even though it was the fundamental part of this agreement,
Right.
Mr. Weaver becomes kind of a free bird. Is he going to keep them in power? Is he not? But then we've got a bylaw that's going to be happening in Nanaimo that's going to tell us the exact same thing. So it's going to be a very interesting next 6 months in BC politics. And even based on the debate last night, I kind of made an offside comment that I didn't feel that the debate was very good last night on the Liberal side, and that. But again, what questions do you ask when you don't know what the information is? Because nobody knows what the information is.
Well, one concern that I have, and I'd really like to encourage, our community, regardless of what your decision is or how you're voting, please get your ballots in. So what's different on this session of voting is that regardless of how many people in our province vote, it's whoever gets their vote in, 50% or +1, they're going to make the decision for the entire province.
Yeah.
So
Be that +1.
Yeah, we have, a smaller population up here. Get your ballots in, please.
Agreed. And Fort St. John, Dawson, Northeast, Northwest. I mean, we do well under majority governments. Industry does well under majority governments, and I think what people don't realize, and maybe they do, and just aren't privy to the fact that that is when we do our best. If majority governments ends in PR, which it will. That could definitely, like you said, Nelson, hurt with
business needs that certainty.
Business and investment, right? So, something that you guys have coming up as well is a conversation with Progress Energy. Now, the news had reported about a week ago, if you missed it, that they've got about 300 well sites, or 300 sites that they've got to do in the next few years, which is astronomical, right? We haven't seen Progress 2.5 years actually do any activity in the Fort St. John area, and although they've moved some folks in and they've done some shuffling around and stuff, there hasn't been any real activity. So you've got who do you have coming up? You've got the president and CEO of Progress Energy.
I've got Mark Fitzgerald, President and CEO of Progress Energy, and he's coming to Fort St. John. I really appreciate it. And again, it's building those connections, with industry, with Julie Borden. We've been trying to work out some dates here for some time, and Mark is going to come to Fort St. John. There's a lot of times there's talk in the coffee shops, this is what's going to happen to Fort St. John now that we have these positive announcements. We're going to get it right from the president. This is what Progress Energy is expecting. They have some announcements to make as well, and I'm really glad that they're coming to Fort St. John. They're making Fort St. John a priority to start here.
So they do have some announcements that are going to be shared in there?
They're going to clarify.
I think their intention here, correct me if I'm wrong, sorry, Lilia, is that and we're getting calls already. So we got a call just a couple of days ago from one of our members who is a branch office of a bigger office, and that they got a request to have their budgets in for next year. So she sent her budgets in basically, and they came back and said, whoa, LNG Canada, it's boom, boom, boom. What are you talking about? You should be driving your numbers by 50, 60, 70%. She comes back to us and says, wait a second, is this the reality? So I think what Progress is probably seeing and hearing is that we're going to have a boom. And I think what they're going to do is they want to come up here and probably explain a little bit more as to what their long-term plans are, what their long-term investments are going to be. So, and I think most people around here know that LNG Canada, LNG going ahead, it doesn't mean that we're going to have this massive upswing. But what it does mean is that we have 30 to 40 years of certainty.
Yes.
Once again, I go back to that word, and I know I use it a lot, but the bottom line is at least now companies, investors can make longer term decisions that are better for community, better for business planning, and I think that's what Progress wants to sort of address. What is it we're looking at going down the road?
And I believe, they foresee it as slow and steady growth.
Right.
Yeah. Which isn't a bad thing.
And that's how we want to build our
good.
community of Fort St. John, slow and steady growth with certainty.
That's actually one of the best things we can have in the cycles that we've been through,
Absolutely.
right? And again, it goes back to that, you look at Kitimat and there's a $1 spend on building a plant in Kitimat over the course of 5 years. And then you look at Fort St. John and there's a $3.80 spend over 40 years, right? So it's, I'll take that 40 years over that 5 years any day. And I remember what it was like in Fort St. John, and even as fresh for people as the last 2 years, right? We've had two of the toughest economical years that we've had in a generation right here in Fort St. John, and we've survived, and people are going to thrive, and really it's time for us to have that solid, steady growth. And we had the gentleman from Wood Fibre on the show as well about a month ago, and the president of Wood Fibre, and same thing, right? He says, I just want people to understand that we're not going to come in and boom a market for 2 years. We're going to give you years of solid growth, solid drilling, solid exploration, and seeing it in the media right now. Canada knows how to do it right. BC knows how to do it right. Fort St. John knows how to do it the best.
And we're going to be helping our neighbors up towards Fort Nelson.
Which is great, too, because we know Fort Nelson has had very tough times over the years, longer than we have, and will continue to longer than we have. But it's good to see all of this finally come into fruition. So then you've got one other thing we mentioned was the Juniors Dragons Den as well. So we've got the Juniors Dragon Den happening. And is it a Fort St. John? Is it regional?
It's a regional. So last year they hosted the regional semifinals in Tumbler Ridge, and we're looking at bringing it closer to home. And how it will be determined, we're going to be reaching out to the school. So it's from grade 7 up to college and into trades. Whoever has the most applicants that are in will host it here. It's an awesome opportunity as well for them to find a mentor and help their business, whether it's a summer job or whether it's expanding a business they already have. It's getting your foot in the door and making those connections with other business people. To me, that's where the biggest gain is from this. Sure, there's money as well to help a young business starting off, but it really is learning how to work with other business people, doing your pitch, because when you go to a bank, you're going to have to give your pitch. This is why I want X amount of dollars, and why you should trust and invest in me. Community Futures, they have a team that will also help video the candidates in their performance. They work with them one-on-one on their presentation, and they get to meet other like-minded individuals. It's pretty neat. Growing up in Fort St. John, there's a lot of people who, other associations or groups you're involved in, and throughout your years, you seem to travel along. So I'm really, really excited about this.
And
so
when's that kickoff? That kicks off.
We're going to do the kickoff in 2019. If anyone has questions, they can reach out to me. The main contact person is Sue Kenny at Community Futures Peasley Yard. I can give her contact information out if somebody wants to get hold of me. And we're going to be looking for mentors and sponsors, but definitely I'm going to be knocking on doors, and just to make sure that this year that there's better awareness of it.
Yeah, which would be great. And I took part. I was a judge for the Thrive North event, right?
That falls under Futurepreneur umbrella.
Which is phenomenal. I mean, It was the first time it was in Northeast BC. We've been excluded recruited for previous years, and to see the turnout, and even you know, and you know, it's funny because you kind of go into this and you're thinking it's 10 grand. It's not a huge amount of money, right? But at the end of the day, what these folks had already planned to do with the funds, as far as kickstarting, you know, another division of their business or expanding their business, that's huge, right? So, and it's one of those things that I don't think people get in tune with. I don't think they realize what's happening. But you know, this follows along the same lines. It literally changes somebody's life as far as their business goes, and they need to get involved in it. They need to get involved.
And I really like how it's starting at the younger age. And I was talking to, Rotary, we have an Interact club at the high school. And at the high school, the students were telling me that they have a class on entrepreneurship. I think that's really great. So, you know, I applaud School District 60. Not only they're bringing trades into the schools, you know, starting that off, but also saying there are other avenues. Not everyone wants to go to college or university, and you might have a really good business idea. I know there's 2 young fellas that helped my mom out with snow shoveling and mowing the lawn. I can see those guys having a landscaping business down the road, and you know, and they're just in junior high.
That's awesome. I actually didn't even know the high school had an entrepreneur program. I know the college did, but I didn't know the high school had adopted that.
I heard that on Wednesday.
That's great. Okay, beautiful. So, what's happening in the chamber? There's some breaking news. We talked about that just before the break. I didn't even know about it. Actually, I guess nobody probably knew about it, but the actual
good news is the chamber has a job opening that we'll be advertising this week.
But not yours.
Not mine.
Not yours.
The bad news is for us is unfortunately Lilia is retiring.
Wow.
So Lilia will be leaving at the end of this year, December 31st. So first and foremost, I'd say Lilia has done a remarkable job with the chamber. In 5 years of running the organization, she has raised everyone's boat. And our community, our chamber, our board, we've all been so fortunate to have Lilia work with us. So we're going to miss her dearly. However, she has set the stage. You have set the stage, and you've got our organization ready to move to the next level. And we're looking forward to reaching out to the community and see if we can find a new executive director. So we will be advertising for that next week. And Lilia, of course, she's a member of the city council, and she's a member of many organizations. She's not going far, and we're going to make sure she's not gone too far away. But so that's the news. Lilia is going to be resigning and retiring, and we'll be looking for a new executive director in the coming
weeks. I've got a great job. I mean, it is awesome. So if anybody wants to know more about what I do, reach out to me. I'd love to get together for coffee and let them know about it. And,
there you go.
I've worked the last almost 5 years now, and I've worked hard to build it up and increase that awareness and the things that we do, our visibility, our connections, industry, you know, just being able to pick up the phone to say, hey, I've got an idea, are you in? And they're really good about going, okay.
I'd like to add to that too. With that in mind, we also have Lilia. So Lilia is our executive director. She has an executive assistant. That's our staffing for the chamber. And we have a board of 12. So the board is in its nomination process now. So we have 8 positions available on the board. We have some resigning, some they're 10 years up. So we have probably 7 or 8 names brought forward so far, 11. I believe. 11 names already? Wow, oh my God. Yeah. So please, out to the public, if you are interested in your community, interested in business, interested in being involved, we always are looking for people to come on our board. We also have committees on the board that are very effective, and we're looking for volunteers. A good way to get on the board of Chamber of Commerce is to come in at a committee level. Come in, support the committee, help out, and you'll get familiar with the chamber, and then you can move on to the board level. So the chamber needs our community, and we want more people to step forward.
Wow, so some big changes happening at the chamber. Lilia, I think that's fantastic. You're retiring. I think you know you've now set up where Ron can just take care of you, and you don't have to. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. I'm sure he's thrilled about that.
Yeah, he's probably expecting me to cook more now. Although he's got a really nice new barbecue, I do not want to interfere with that.
Thank
you very much to Doug and Shelley for connecting him with that. But I'm going to be staying in the community. I'm still passionate about the Chamber of Commerce and hope to still be invited and to be involved in that and with mentorship. City Council, I'm going to be able to put more attention, just double up my efforts. Yes, they just really like my emails and texts. I'm just going to step it up because
I'm envisioning Gord right now as he's listening, and whether it's live or whether it's later, and then Gord Clausen, of course. I think he's going to be ecstatic about the news because, you know, he's always the one that says, Lilia just has so much to share. Like she just has so much to tell us, and now we'll get even more of
But I think that's really great. You know, whether you're at the grocery store, you're out having lunch with someone, you run into different people in the community, you can share that information back and forth. So I think one of the strengths with the Chamber is we are out there. We are at meetings, we are attending, whether it's nonprofits or the city or community groups or industry. We're finding out what is going on. We're sharing that information with others. It's not about keeping it for what we know. It's about putting it out there to say, hey, you know, Treaty 8 is having an event, or Thrive North is having a business planning session, things like that. It's getting that information out. And I'll definitely, you know, still be involved in my community, spending more time with my mom.
Nice.
She'll definitely enjoy that. My Mummy Mobile has been transferred into a senior courtesy vehicle.
So you guys, and I imagine you have a Facebook page, right? The Chamber's probably
yeah.
live on Facebook. What is that? What is the page on Facebook? Just Fort St. John
Fort
Chamber?
St. John Chamber.
Okay, beautiful. So if people want to get involved or even just get in the know, right?
Yeah.
There's so much information that they can learn.
I would love to put them on my distribution list for the Chamber.
Yeah. So if you're going to get the emails, guys, you've just joined that group. But no, in all seriousness, Lilia, you've done a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I think, you know, Nelson, you're going to have a hard time. Those are big shoes to fill. But I think with
high heels.
Oh, big stilettos to fill. But I think with all the change, obviously, is always a good thing, right?
I'm excited about it, actually. I'm really excited to see, you know, where the next 5 years of the Chamber goes, and somewhere down the road.
And the next 5 years of you.
Yeah. You know, when things slow down with my family, you know, if they want me back, I'd love to come back.
Nice.
We'll welcome her on the board, too.
Yeah, I'd say so. In about a month.
With all my packages and my little helpful suggestions.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. Good.
Here are just a few thoughts.
I love it. But that is a wrap for us today. Okay. So we're going to get back to Moose FM and the regular programming throughout the day. So I thank you guys very much for coming in.
Thank you for the time.
I do love what you're doing, and I think more people need to know about it, which is why I'm glad that you joined us. So have a great weekend. Remember Sunday's events at the Legion as far as the parade goes, and then the rest of the after party, we'll call it.
There's some chili, there's a supper that night as well.
Nice. So there's a full day's events that are going on. So take part in that. Bring the kids so they start to realize how important the celebration of November 11th is for us to all remember what happened in order for us to have what we have today. So have a great week. Stay warm, and we'll talk to you next week.
Our community first. This is Trev Talks with your host, Trevor Bolin. You've been listening to Trev Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the North Peace.